Hello, my name is Shaya Raquel Farley, and I am the Education and Community Action Coordinator for Garamia Theater, and I'm going to read a land acknowledgement today. We would like to recognize the Native people whose ancestral lands are where Garamia Theater operates. We wish to acknowledge the land of the Kickapoo, Tawakoni, Wichita, and Caddo people, which is now called Dallas. Comanches and Kiowa have also lived in this region, although it is not often recognized as their homeland. We acknowledge that Dallas is stolen land and that this city was built with stolen labor. Garamia Theaters de Grove honors the experiences and cultures of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We call for the unity and solidarity of all of our peoples in making a better world.
Good evening and happy International Women's Day. My name is Virginia Grice. I am the playwright in residence at Garamia Theater. And welcome to this evening, a talk with Omi Oshun, Dr. Joni L. Jones, Theatrical Jazz as the Practice of Liberation. This is the first in a four-part series. We will have a new talk every Tuesday, the month of Women's History Month. And so please come back and join us. Before we begin, I wanted to give a little context for how we arrived here today together. At the onset of the pandemic, I took very seriously a call from Daniel Alexander Jones, an invitation to practice. And I really began questioning, what is my practice as an artist without the physical space of the theater? What is it that I will make? And the very first piece I wrote was a piece called Soñar es Luchar, a play at home commissioned from the Soul Project. Set in a cotton field in South Texas, Soñar es Luchar is a lucid dream about a broken heart, wildfires, urban rebellions, and the longing to fly. In that moment, at the onset of the pandemic, all I could do was dream about flying. And the first performance that I did as a playwright in residence at Garamia Theater was a virtual one, A Farm for Meme, about an urban farm built in a vacant lot after the LA rebellion. The pandemic changed things for me, for all of us, I hope. It really made me question my role as an artist and shifted, or maybe it deepened it. My calling, my practice became clear. I am interested in how we create ecologies of care in the face of state violence, how we dream when our communities are under attack, and how we create spaces for movement, joy, and celebration amidst all of it. As an artist, I want to craft and build spaces for collective dreaming. During the course of this residency, I have been focusing on this idea or concept called talleres for dreaming. Talleres for dreaming are performance labs that explore artistic and creative processes driven by the insurgent possibility of collective dreaming. Equal parts political study group, artist salon, community action committee, and theater. The talleres focus on embodied inquiry, facilitated conversations, curated gatherings, and art making workshops that honor the lived realities, daily practice, rooted wisdoms, and embodied knowledge of local communities, culminating in a public performance and artistic provocations designed by taller participants. So the question that I have been asking myself as an artist is, instead of workshopping a play, what if we workshopped an idea? Taller in Spanish is also a physical, literal space for craftspeople to build, to make something with their own hands. I am the daughter of an airplane mechanic and a Chinese immigrant mother. Art making is my craft, something I make with my own hands, with the resources I have around me. What do we need to become the craftspeople of dreams? To make dreaming a practice, the thing we make and share instead of a play? What if, instead of a play, theater, as Omi Oshun says, is where we can build and dream new worlds together? A sacred grove where anything is possible. Caramia is the first to produce these talleres in the neighborhood in Southeast Dallas called Pleasant Grove. We have been meeting since January, having these weekly workshops with guest artists. We're going to start doing in-person workshops the month of March, and we will have a final event the month of April. But these talleres are happening all across the country. In the fall, we'll build a taller with Books in the Barrio, Terra Advocati, and Galeria Eva in San Antonio, Texas. That taller will be facilitated by Marisa Ramirez. And we're also creating these talleres at Galeria Mitotera in South Tucson, Arizona, and at AA3A in the Bronx, New York. Caramia is also the first to produce a series of artist talks with artists who were guest facilitators for the talleres in Dallas. The work of these artists celebrate one of the following three principles: abolition, liberation, and love as art and life practice. As I mentioned at the top, we're going to drop a new artist talk every Tuesday at the same time the entire month of March in celebration of Women's History Month. I think that in this moment, it's important that we listen to the voices of women, that we listen to the voices of Black and Indigenous women, that we listen to the voices of artists. Our first artist talk tonight is with Omi Oshun. Omi Oshun, Dr. Joni L. Jones's work is committed to exploring strategies for promoting healthy communities through personal and communal joy. She is an artist, scholar, facilitator who employs Black feminist aesthetics and theatrical jazz principles in her performance work, her pedagogy, and her facilitation. On a personal note, Omi Oshun is my kin. She is my family. She is my mentor. And I was introduced to a lineage of art making through a project that she ran called the Austin Project that brought together scholars, artists, and activists to make art together. And I was a part of the Austin Project for 3 years in my formative years as an artist. So in so many ways, the work that we did as part of the Austin Project, the way in which we worked in the Austin Project informs a lot of how I am creating these talleres for dreaming today. Omi Oshun also has a really beautiful saying where she says, "We are a we. We are a we." Gracias, Omi Oshun, for all the work you do. And I am so grateful that I get to share her work with you tonight.
The blackness, keep on. Never say die, keep on. Blackness, keep on. Never say die, keep on.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here. There are a couple of thank yous I want to offer as I spend this time with you, this really precious, important, delicious time with you. Let me begin with Oriyeyeo Mwadu Ojo Oshun Tobi to Oshun, the divinity of the river with whom I have a particular connection. Let me also acknowledge the Kiz, or the Tongva people, who were once quite numerous in the land where I currently reside on the West Coast, in what we now call Los Angeles. And the Kiz, they were a people who understood the power of dancing. They were a people who had a woman as one of their warriors who led them into battle against colonization. They are currently working to get federal recognition, and I support them in that effort. I also want to acknowledge the entire Jones family, with particular attention to my father, William Edward Jones. Though he passed when I was 13 years old, he and I have an ongoing, evolving relationship, and it has risen up recently as something for me to tend to. And to Caramia Theater and Virginia Grice, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for this invitation. I think of this work as an opportunity to help us all be our best. And that's the foundation for everything. When we trust that, know that, we can do anything. So thank you all. I want to begin with an offering, a reading from Theatrical Jazz Performance, Ashe, and the Power of the Present Moment. There'll be some Yoruba words that I will use throughout. Egbe is one. Egbe is a work kinship, people who have come together for common cause. It might be work in an employment sense. It might be artistic. It might be bloodline, but not necessarily. Egbe, kin in the deepest sense of that word. Ikoshe, it is the quality of passing on. It is an extended apprenticeship. As we talk about theatrical jazz together today, a form that I work in, it will be important for us to remember, even across technology, that we are having a person-to-person, a body-to-body reality. It is not something that can be gleaned solely by reading a book. It is done person to person. Ikoshe, the passing on of information. Ashe, so be it. Some might say amen. Ashe, when we put a word on it, we are manifesting it. We are bringing it into being. Ashe. And awo, the mystery. It is where art resides. It is what we want to invoke, to bring forward. It is where life is, inside of the unknown, the mystery, awo. All of this is important to my understanding of theatrical jazz, though people don't have to have that kind of connection to Yoruba. It has become important to me to find African ways, Black ways of talking about art. That's part of my root, part of my grounding. So some of that will be part of what you will hear in what I am sharing from, and I'll just show the book, Theatrical Jazz. And so we begin for about 10 minutes, a reading from Theatrical Jazz. Jazz and Yoruba spiritual traditions and theater arouse my unspeakable curiosities, arresting my attention, poised, ready, tantalized. The way Coltrane's Dear Lord moves in me and evokes so many things at the same time. It's like prayer in the groves with the calabash held high. When Thelonious Monk kaplunks a note and something in me awakens, when my body moves around the circle with my back bent for Obatala and I smile and want to just cut loose in my own improvised praise to the force of justice and wisdom, it is all striking the same vibration, tweaking the same root. When I stomp, wide leg flinging, sweat around the performance circle and declare, this is where it all comes together, I know that Mama's biscuits, made to the harmonies of Brooke Benton and Dinah Washington, I know that people jumping with the spirit at Second Baptist Church in Harvey, Illinois, I know that my coming out and coming in are the forces of the deepest power. A spirit, art, and eros are, abinibi, natural, as it should be, is. At some point for me, it all became the same thing. That awe-filled place of the most profound truth that when accessed, when respected, would change everything. Could I go there? Would I choose truth and power over a beautiful mask? I ask myself this every time I am in the presence of this work. It takes me to the edge, and I stop at the banks of the river or get in with a fish and improvise. I bring all of this together as I go wider and deeper. It is all the same. It is the essence of being, the roots, the thing, the spirit. Theater does not exist without it. Jazz couldn't be without it. Magic cannot happen without the surrender to the mystery. And this is how I begin to tell it as the same tune. Jazz, like queer, can be redeployed as a strategy of resistance. In this way, jazz, like queer, gets to name itself, is allowed to burst in order to find itself as historically rooted, resistive, and insurgent. If Black embraces joy and jazz, it snatches back itself. It becomes an affront to forces that seek to inhibit self-naming. In challenging normative notions of Blackness, Black undermines the state's ability to control through naming. Theatrical jazz turns Blackness on its head through the joyous blue note of surprise and mystery. What if joy is Black? This becomes a fundamental social transgression, as Black then lives outside of hegemonic ideas of joy that position Black as a tool, as an object to create joy. When Black becomes agent, Black cracks utilitarian understandings of what joy might be, in which Black and joy only come together as commodities serving others. The multiplicities of Blackness and the necessity of improvisation and innovation disrupt the ability to name and therefore control who and what Black is. Our joy, our joy does not erase oppression, fear, rage. It lives alongside these things, which makes it all the more powerful. To know joy within oppression, to seek love even in the bowels of a slaving ship, is an acknowledgement that Black is more than a social construction, that we live outside of that construction even as we live within it. What a journey this has been. The river winds, and I learn the ways of fish, bringing down the spirit. That is this work. Nothing short of spiritual invigoration. My Egbe is with me. Lori Carlos saying, I can't help you with that. And my knowing that she already has. Daniel Alexander Jones's fierce improvisations do their jig in my heart. And I remember his patience as I struggled to learn lines years ago. Sharon Bridgeforth's words resting in my lap. The years of shared rehearsals and casts and scripts and promises. The bounty is here and must be shared. Loving gardeners share their fruits. I never left you. I've been right here. Lift now, fly now, free now, be now. It's okay. Not alone, not alone, not alone, not alone. Always we praise memory. I am the conjure. Come back to love. And then I know I'm not an actor. I'm a priest. I'm a conjurer. helping the people to their own prayer, sentient first, then passing it on. This is a holy place, this theater. It is where we can dream and build our worlds together. This is sacred business, no purely commercial ventures here. It is me in the river once each month in my own rituals with Omi. It is Daniel saying goodbye so he could say hello. It is Sharon stepping out of herself to be herself. It is Lori finding her way down the hallway through the darkness. A display of talent is not what is needed. It is my virtuosic commitment that must be summoned. It is knowing that everyone here is willing, that my tears cleanse us all, that the spirit I sought was right here all along in the place that I feared for its power, for its potential to expose my failures and my hunger. It was here, waiting for me to arrive, for me to step one toe in at a time, to let my lip curl in that ugly way, for me to spin with my arms spread, to splash through the words saying thank you to mama and daddy at each twirl. So this is it. My Legba moment. The marrow in the bone. And I laughed from my knees. It was here all along. Strumming its fingers on the pulse, patient. Splashing water on those around me in baptism. The swish of the gungun panel, the sound of my own voice, never again to fear the freedom in truth. So funny, I'm giggling. I am the conjure, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrificial blood made flesh. Oh, yes. Theater is the divine public space, the theatron and orchestra of public discourse, the sacred grove where anything is possible. I am the answered prayer. It is true. Each of us is sufficient and required for this manifestation. Remember, 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 love. Indeed. Robbie McCauley said, the end of the work is often the beginning. And so it is. Eboda. Ashe. That excerpt, that offering I made, was a blend of critical personal narrative about who I am and more traditional scholarship. And I'm glad to always, always blend them both. They're always equally important. And now I'd like to make an invitation to you. Having extended an offering of my own creation and feeling energized by the offerings that the cohort that Virginia Grice brought together at Karamia. They made offerings to me as they created poems and songs on the spot. So now it's time for an invitation. This is the invitation. Take what is useful. I now want to spend a little bit of time talking about theatrical jazz, offering some of its elements to you. Take what is useful. And I will remind you of that invitation as I go through. There are some big ideas around theatrical jazz that I'll put out there. Let me start with time. In the making of theatrical jazz as an art form and as a way of being in life, simultaneity is everything. Things happen together. In a theatrical sense, a very traditional theatrical sense, this can mean that the audience witnesses, and I refer to them as witnesses to acknowledge that we are co-creating this, and that witnessing is an active form of participation, necessary form of participation. The audience witnesses might not see everything because something is happening way upstage, something may be happening in the back of the house. I remember once Lori Carlos directed a production in which she used part of the house and only the tiniest portion of the audience witnesses could even see what was going on. It is a reminder that we are, even in a collective experience, having an individual experience. And Lori's work honored that, and Simultaneity offers that and honors it. And it says we get to make choices about what we're going to pay attention to as audience witnesses. And that's part of the way that we create together. Another very important idea about time from a theatrical jazz perspective, now and then and will be and might be, all of that is available to us right in this moment. And so the act of being present in the moment pulls all of those times together. We are the vessels that are carrying then, now, was, will be, might be in the now. And what about the body in theatrical jazz? Throughout the sharing that I just offered, there were these movements. I will call them abstract movements. Maybe you will help me develop a different word for them. Another way to think about them is non-mimetic. My feeling is Black bodies, Black beings, all beings, but let me say Black particularly for right now. Black beings grow in abstraction and are cramped by mimesis. Mimesis locks people into understanding Black in old, stereotypic, convenient ways. Abstraction says, oh, you better pay attention. You better pay attention and know me as I am right now in all of my individuality and collectivity. So the body revels in abstraction in theatrical jazz. And theatrical jazz says we are a we. We are a we. There may be so-called actors on something that we conceive of as a stage. The experience is ours, and we're going to do that thing together. Theatrical jazz is interested in the transformation of the entire thing so that all of it becomes a place where we get to thrive. The we, the collective, the everybody we gets to thrive. Gets to be fully ourselves at our best. There's always the we. And now I wanna do something else with theatrical jazz. But this is what I'm gonna ask of you. As I talk about some of these additional features of theatrical jazz, don't think it's limited to that. Lori Carlos told me, you can't write that down. And she was exactly right, because writing it down is not ecochet. It is not the body-to-bodiness of being in rehearsals together, going to the grocery store together and learning all of that. Okay? It becomes a convenient way to reference some items. So if you will hang on to that and not think, oh, I've got these elements and now I know how to do theatrical jazz, okay, then we can proceed. So I want to give you 5 additional elements in your consideration of theatrical jazz. First is vulnerability. First and foremost is vulnerability. Many of us have consciously moved away from places of vulnerability, thinking that that would protect us. It won't. It will only cramp us all the more. Vulnerability is required for a vital life. A life that is responsive to what we are actually feeling, what our desires, our needs, our joy and pain are. A life that allows us to create, to fully create with others. Yes. Vulnerability. The act of vulnerability, okay, let's attach it to an action. Truth telling, tell the truth. It is not always safe or advisable to tell the truth in every situation. We have to be discerning. But man, we got to figure out first what's true for us on the inside, and then carve out those places where we tell the truth to others. We can create lives where we are so accustomed to not telling the truth for ourselves that we don't even know what our desires are. We don't even know what our joy and pains are because we have wrapped them up and presented ourselves in ways that are not truthful. Vulnerability as one of the features of theatrical jazz, another feature. And improvisation, another one. The ability to be flexible and spontaneous. This is a survival strategy. And in this time, in this moment, in 2022, with all that's going on, we all need improvisation as our friend, our ability to respond most particularly to the now. Another feature of theatrical jazz, again, remembering that this list is not, it's not exhaustive, and it's not going to get you to the heart of theatrical jazz. So maybe you can make a promise to me that you'll work with some of the practitioners. So if you're interested, you can take it in your body, in your spirit. Another, innovation. And here you quickly see how these things are blending together. I'm giving these discrete categories, but innovation and improvisation are obviously cousins, right? Maybe even twins. Innovation, creating the new. Our divine job is to be fully our best selves, not to imitate others. We can learn some things from imitation, and as art makers, there may be some learning in imitation that happens, but we're creating art when we're doing our own thing, when we are innovating, and the world wants us to innovate, not simply replicate. So, innovation. Virtuosity. I think of virtuosity actually as courage. When the soloist takes that solo on the drum and she's going for it on the drum, it takes courage to say all of my training, all of my truth is what I'm going to offer up right now. And there you see how virtuosity and truth telling come together, right? Again, these are not discrete elements. And the last of these that I'll talk about right now is ensemble building. The ability to listen, the ability to know when to speak and when to pull back, the ability to work with the collective. And that doesn't mean always being in harmony. Sometimes discord, is the very energy that is needed. But respecting the ensemble, which then of course takes us to that notion of egbe, of working can that I offered up before. One of the strongest ways of building an ensemble is to make things together, whether that's a meal or a mural or a quilt or a joined walk through the forest. And that has a real relationship to collaboration. Oh man, so I've thrown all this stuff out here about what theatrical jazz might be, and you will invent your own. I should say that the practitioners of theatrical jazz do things in radically different ways. They have these tenets associated, but man, you're not going to find other kinds of aesthetic through lines necessarily. So the invitation here, not only to take what is useful, but to make it your own. That's the invitation, if these ideas are resonating with you. It is at this time that I'd like for us to take a look at a video. It is an excerpt from the opening of Sharon Bridgeforth's production, Blood Pudding, directed by Laurie Carlos, presented at Hyde Park Theater in Austin, Texas. We're going to look at it. We're going to come back and talk a little more, and then we're going to close it out. So the video, whenever it is ready.
My mama is a downtown boucher. Her mama earned freedom there from a Frenchman who liked his very black. In the book of color they had, quadroon equals 1/4 black, rest white.
Octoroon equal 1/8 black, rest white. Mulatto equal 1/2 black, rest white. Grim equal half Indian.
Half black.
Rio
Equals some black,
You got
some
to
red,
everything.
maybe Spanish, and black, which whatever it really was.
Daddy Griff, Mama Creole, I be gumbo.
My mama ran uptown when she almost grown. Got herself a man as fast as she could. And want no some white baby.
Yes, Blood Pudding, Sharon Bridgeford. Let me name the performers who you saw: Jola Branner, Florinda Bryant, Zell Miller III, Stacy Robinson, and Renita Martin. All practicing artists now and all steeped in theatrical jazz. What did you feel? What did you note? The simultaneity when one performer walks away and engages directly with the audience witnesses as a reminder of the we. The non-mimetic or abstract movement that I believe requires us to pay attention in keener ways. The vulnerability. What were the histories of those bodies on stage? What histories had they stored, and how were they accessing it as they worked in that inverted ring shout? So a ring shout would ordinarily have people facing in. Laurie turns it around and has it out. What histories were they drawing on? My feeling is about the body in theatrical jazz, about the body in any context. We have acquired some understandings about how our bodies operate. I suggest that we can develop new muscle memories so that in addition to any of the hard ways in which we've had to train our muscles for survival, there are the ways that our muscles can be asked to create. Those bodies on stage in that excerpt were offering us a result, not the result, a result of a rehearsal process where they were asked to bring all of those histories, all of those stale muscle memories, and find new ones, What else did you feel in all of that? Any frustration in not being able to hear as clearly as you might, or things were kind of in shadow? So again, the audience witnesses are invited to engage in a very distinctive way. You probably felt other kinds of things. Maybe there was the virtuosity as courage, somebody taking a solo here and there. The courage to expose ideas about Blackness and lineage that aren't often spoken. Innovation all over the place. The innovation in their movement and in the inversion that I mentioned that Lori offered up. And oh my, ensemble building, the working together, the knowing how to step up and step back. Woo! As I said from my writing, what a journey this has been. We've been on a journey together. I'll remind you of the invitation. Take what was useful and then explore, dig in more. As I begin to close this experience with you, I want to remind myself that the title of this conversation, talk, engagement with you is Theatrical Jazz as the Practice of Liberation. We cannot arrive at liberation using old strategies. We will need improvisation, vulnerability, innovation, ensemble building, and a virtuosity that is courageous enough to do the inner work so that our inner issues don't spill out in unhealthy ways, to do that inner work, and then the virtuosity to bring those truths to the ensemble. We'll need all of that. So my question that I'd like to leave you with is, what is your practice of liberation? What do you do with your body to prepare for liberation, to make liberation now? Maybe there will have been some ideas, some experiences, something in the visualness that we share and the sonicness that we share in these Zoom worlds that will inspire you, help you to love yourself more, love yourself enough to try something new, to be new. And with that, I want to thank you, Modupwe, Eshegon, and Ashe.
Thank you so much, Omeoshun. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I invite everybody to put in the chat, what is your practice of liberation? What is your practice of liberation? My body, this body, body and breath, my only weapon. I hope you will join us next week for an invitation to dance 'cause we free. A talk by Marguerite Angelica Monique. And I invite everybody in this next week on a daily basis to keep dreaming.